You're standing in a room full of people you know. Your phone buzzes in your pocket. 40 unread messages. A group chat that won't quit. Look around. Count the faces. Now ask yourself the uncomfortable part. How many of them would actually notice if you disappeared for a week? If that number is smaller than the room, you're not broken. You've just bumped into something far stranger than you need more friends. Your brain isn't counting the people around you. It's running a much older calculation, one built over millions of years, long before phones, long before cities, long before strangers existed at all. And that calculation has almost nothing to do with how crowded your life looks from the outside. For most of human history, you didn't live around strangers. You lived in a small band of people you knew intimately. Maybe 30 of them, maybe 50. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar studied primate brains alongside human social groups and found a striking pattern. The size of a primate's brain predicts the size of the social group it can meaningfully track. For humans, that ceiling lands somewhere around 150 people. Not 150 close friends, 150 people whose names, faces, and history with you your brain can actually hold on to at once. Inside that number sits a much smaller, far more important circle. The people who would notice the second you went quiet. The people who would drop everything for you, no question asked. That inner circle is tiny. 5 people? Maybe 10. Your brain evolved expecting deep, repeated face-to-face contact with that small circle every single day of your life. Now look back at that crowded room. You might know 1,000 people online. You might work in an office of 200. You might live in a city of 9 million, and your inner circle, the only part your nervous system actually keeps score of, might be thinner than it has ever been in human history. Here's the twist almost nobody tells you. Loneliness was never built to measure how many people are near you. It was built to measure something else entirely. The gap between the connection you need and the connection you're actually getting. Psychologist John Cacioppo spent decades chasing that exact gap. He found that loneliness behaves like hunger or thirst. It isn't a character flaw. It's a biological alarm going off exactly as designed. Hunger tells you your body is short on calories. Loneliness tells you your relationships are short on something just as real and just as necessary to survive. That alarm doesn't care if you're physically alone. It cares whether the people around you are actually seeing you. You can be standing in that full room and still set it off, because not one of those people knows what's actually happening in your head. You can be married, sharing every meal, every bed, every Tuesday, and still feel it claw at you if the conversations stopped going anywhere deep years ago. Quantity was never the measurement. Depth was always the measurement. So why does this feel worse now than it ever has? Because your ancestors, 150 people, were almost entirely high-quality contact. Daily. Physical. Reciprocal. You knew their stories. They knew yours. Embarrassing parts included. There was no version of knowing someone back then that didn't involve their actual face, their actual voice, their actual body sitting next to yours. Today, you can rack up hundreds of connections that barely clear the bar of acquaintance. A like is not eye contact. A streak on an app is not a shared meal. Your brain, the same brain built for that small ancient tribe, is still running the old math in the background. Whether you ask it to or not, it sees the noise. It counts the numbers. And It is fooled by neither. There's a darker layer underneath all of this, and it isn't only emotional. Researcher Julianne Holt-Lonstad ran a massive analysis combining data from over 300,000 people, and what she found should genuinely unsettle you. Chronic loneliness was linked to a higher risk of early death, comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, higher than the risk linked to obesity, higher than the risk linked to physical inactivity. Your body treats social disconnection as a 5-alarm survival threat, not a passing mood you'll shake off by morning. That sounds extreme, until you remember the world this alarm was actually built for. For most of your species' history, being cut off from the group wasn't an inconvenience. It was closer to a death sentence. No tribe meant no protection from predators circling at night. No tribe meant no help finding food, raising children, surviving a brutal winter. The brain that punishes isolation with anxiety, insomnia, and a mind that won't stop replaying every awkward thing you've ever said wasn't malfunctioning. It was doing exactly what kept your ancestors alive long enough to become your ancestors. Here's where it gets stranger still. Loneliness doesn't just make you feel bad, it quietly rewires how you read other people. Researchers studying chronically lonely individuals have found their brains turn hypervigilant to social threat, scanning faces faster for any flicker of rejection, criticism, or exclusion. That sounds protective. In practice, it backfires completely. You start reading neutral expressions as cold ones. You start expecting to be left out, so you pull back first before anyone gets the chance to do it to you. The very system built to push you toward connection ends up building the walls that keep you from it. And then it convinces you that you built those walls on purpose. So what actually fixes this? Not more notifications? Not a louder group chat? Not another platform promising to connect you to everyone, everywhere, instantly, forever. What your nervous system is actually starving for is shockingly small. A handful of people who know the real version of you, not the highlight reel. Conversations with no agenda and nowhere else to be. Time spent in the same physical room, without a screen quietly shrinking the moment down to a thumbnail. The kind of contact your ancestors had automatically that you now have to choose on purpose, again and again, every single week. So look around that room one more time. Or open that phone if the room's already empty. The faces or the names. You already know which ones matter. You always did. Because somewhere behind your eyes, a system built for a tiny ancient tribe is still keeping score. Right now, while you read this, it was never counting the crowd. It was only ever counting the few people willing to truly know you. It was never about the number of names in your phone or the faces that fill a room. Your brain has been running the same quiet calculation since before cities existed. Before strangers were even a concept. It is looking for the few people who actually see you. Not the highlight version, not the performance, you. And here is the part nobody tells you. That number is smaller than you think. And that is not a failure. That is the design. So this week, don't add someone new. Instead, go deeper with someone you already have. One real conversation. One unscheduled hour. One moment where you put the phone down and actually show up. That is what your nervous system has been asking for this entire time. If this made you think differently about the people in your life, share it with one of them. Not 100, just one. The one who would notice if you went quiet. And if you want more videos that take the science of being human and make it actually make sense, subscribe. There is a lot more where this came from.